actually over the days, and now we're coming to this final session. Today's theme is around towards future tangible impacts, and we will actually start today with an introduction to the ACCP associate members. The ACCP associate members is a new mechanism which has been developed to facilitate that connection between cities and donor agencies that are interested in co-developing tangible solid waste management projects in cities in Africa specifically. So today we have three presentations. One is from the European Investment Bank, the other is from the Japan Bank of International Cooperation, and then also from the Alliance to End Plastic Waste. But before we actually delve into the presentations, I'd just like to highlight again some of the housekeeping rules for this session. So please, if you have an odd name when you have logged into the Zoom, then please rename yourself with your first name, last name, and the organization that you adhere to or are a member of. Also make sure that your microphone is muted unless you are talking. Of course, the ACCP is hosted in English, but we do have French simultaneous interpretation. So please, at the bottom bar, I think you've all had practice in this over the days now, you can actually click on the French interpretation channel to get the language and understand what's being said. So please also feel free to use the chat function and introduce yourself and ask questions. You can also actually use the icons to say when you actually support somebody's inputs or if there's something that you actually would like to react on. There will be a dedicated question and answer session after we've had the presentations from the ACCP associate members. So please make sure that your questions are concise because we don't have that much time actually today. And we want to allow as many people as possible to be able to ask questions. And also please feel free to actively contribute through the question and comment session. So with that, I'd like to dive into this session of the presentation of the ACCP associate members. And I'd like to invite Ms. Caroline Oguto, who is a water sector engineer from the European Investment Bank Global Hub. She's based in Nairobi. And the European Investment Bank has actually been partnering with UN Habitat over the past few years in the implementation of water projects. And currently we're sort of exploring new areas around collaboration in solid waste management. And the EIB has a program called the Clean Oceans Project Identification and Preparation, the COPIP. So today, Caroline will be giving us an introduction to that project. And also she'll be reflecting a little bit on areas of possible collaboration going forward. So Caroline, I'd love to give you the floor now.
Thank you, Cecilia. I don't know if you will put the presentation for me.
I think somebody will help you with that. Is it Shiho?
That's me. Sorry, let me do it now.
And please request that I don't put on my video. I don't know why I have bad connection today. It's a Friday. All right. So as she puts that up, I'm Caroline Oguto, and I'm a water sector engineer, as Cecilia has mentioned. I work with the European Investment Bank, and the bank is headquartered in Luxembourg, but we have regional offices. So I am in the Nairobi regional hub. So I'll probably just give you I think this is not the right one.
No,
the one I sent you just.
Yes, Shiho, maybe you can stop sharing the screen. I will share my screen. Is it working now?
Yes, I can see it. Thank you very much. The one Shiho was presenting was a bit not updated, so I would like to probably just show you a little bit about who the bank is. So the EIB, European Investment Bank, is the EU bank. If you just go to the next slide, and it's was established some years back, 1958 to be precise, and it's owned by the 27 member states. It was 28, but we had Brexit, so we have 27 now. And basically, it's a tool, a European tool to implement projects both in Europe, but also externally. And we, of course, work closely with then the European External Action Plan when we are doing projects outside of Europe. We lend both to private and public sector. And I think that's it. So on the public sector, if you go to the next slide, we have let me say, a subsidiary within the bank. I don't know whether it's called a subsidiary, but we have EIB's global branch. So it's one that focuses outside the Europe. That's basically in Africa as well. And the policy is the EU policy that we use in all our endeavors. We basically focus or use the EU standards and policies and procedures, and we are keen on partnerships because we do not, as Cecilia mentioned, we have partnered with the UN bodies a lot in our implementation of projects, but we also partner with other IFIs because we do not finance normally 100% of the project. We are a climate bank, focusing a lot on climate mitigation, adaptation, and as I mentioned before, we lend both to private and to the public sector. We have expertise in-house, so I'm one of them, water sector engineer, but we also have other sector engineers, other expert economists, and who both work in the headquarters, but also in the regional offices. I'd like us to go to the next slide, which is a bit of a mouthful, but I've mentioned before, we are a very responsible bank, delivering especially on the SDGs. So environmental and social sustainability monitoring of all our projects is priority. As I mentioned, we are a climate bank, so we focus a lot on reduction of greenhouse gas emissions, and we actually report all the impact our projects are having across the globe. And as I have mentioned, this presentation can be shared before, but then we have focused on the gender, equality and women's economic empowerment. That's under SDG 5 and 10. We support, of course, the pandemic, countries' response to risk and fragilities and the pandemic and all such things, which is also in SDGs 3 and 6. And digital transformation is also our focus. So we do innovative financing, especially in the SMEs and in the private sector in general. I will talk a bit of the regional representation. As I've mentioned, EIB is a big bank, but then we have global representation everywhere. Currently, we have, if you go to the next slide, the regional representation for East Africa, which is the Nairobi hub, where I sit. So the Nairobi hub basically is taking care, or is the area of jurisdiction is 10 countries in the eastern part of Africa. We have Kenya, Uganda, Tanzania. I don't know if these slides are moving. If I look at the screen, I don't see the slides moving. They seem to be stuck.
Is it?
We are.
I'm showing acting as
no. Yes. So go
one?
next.
Next one. This one.
Yes.
Okay.
Next. Yes, we are here. So I was just mentioning that. No, back. Oh, it's a bit slow, maybe. Yeah, here, Nairobi hub. So I was saying that the EIB has an external branch that is called EIB Global, that basically looks at projects across outside Europe, that is. And we have now established hubs within the region. We have many regional offices, but now we are boosting them with increased local presence because we are focusing more on development projects outside of Europe. we have a lot of external offices in Africa. We have Pretoria, Nairobi, Abidjan, Addis, Yaoundé, all over. But currently, the first hub to be established, or the first office to be boosted in terms of local presence and technical, environmental, and financial expertise is the Nairobi hub. And as I've mentioned, it looks at 10 countries as the area of jurisdiction. Our instruments are the same, it's public sector lending, but we also have private sector lending to the SMEs through lines of credit. We also have corporate lending and sometimes even project finance and equity. If you go to the next slide, now we delve deep into what we are talking about right now. We have the Clean Oceans Initiative program as one of our many programs we have in the bank. This sits with our circular economy division. So the focus of Clean Oceans Initiative, if I have not, I'll talk about a bit Clean Oceans Initiative before I talk about the COPIP program, because these are related. The Clean Oceans Initiative program is a program of the bank plus other partners, EIB partners with other European institutions like AFD, and the Italian National Promotional Bank. Now we have EBRD and Spanish Promotional Bank as well, providing up to 4 billion commitment to projects that should focus on reducing pollution into the oceans, particularly plastic pollution into the oceans. As we know, this is another pandemic, let me say. Our oceans are basically choked. So the EIB has devised a program called the COPIP, technical assistance, that is basically supposed to prepare projects or a pipeline of projects that are supposed to then support this objective of reducing plastic pollution into our oceans. COPIP was started sometime, launched in 2020. If you go to the next slide, it was launched in 2020. And it's a 3-year technical assistance program that's basically focusing on sub-Saharan Africa. And we focus on
Sorry, did we lose Caroline?
I
Yeah,
also cannot share.
it seems like we did. And I'm also representing EIB and the COPI program. So until she's back, I can try to fill in.
Yes,
That's
please.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Jonas Bistrom. I'm working in the Circular Economy Division, referred to before. Are you back? You're back,
Yes,
thanks.
Thanks. Yeah, I don't know what happened. I'm so sorry. Yes, so thank you, Jonas. Actually, I'll leave the floor to Jonas in a bit, but the aim is to identify projects, as we have mentioned, and the program has been ongoing for some time. The intention was to identify 20 projects across sub-Saharan Africa. So the focus is on the coastal cities. And then from this, we would get 10 into pre-feasibility studies, then develop, let's say, 5 others into feasibility studies. So this can then be financed. But then within the 5 projects that have been developed up to the feasibility studies, we were to do piloting, where, to just check how this, some of the components that have been identified would work. So maybe to go to the next slide. Yes, next slide. I think we are going a bit slowly. So yes, and I think it's just basically what I've described. So proof of concept for 5 shortlisted projects that have gone through the feasibility studies. So far, we have identified, we're in the process of identifying 10 projects. We have developed 20 projects, sorry. We have developed 16 features which have been submitted. 4 descriptive features are still under preparation to make the 20 projects on pipeline. For the pre-feasibility study stage, we need to identify 10 projects. 4 are already ongoing on pre-feasibility, but we have 6 yet to be approved to go into that stage. And we then will identify 5 projects out of the 10 that will have undergone pre-feasibility to go into full feasibility studies. Then we will have proof of concept for at least 5, that is about piloting about 5 shortlisted projects. And then we will see out of that, but the 20 projects that have been identified then are eligible for funding or for further development for funding. I think in the interest of time, this is it for today. Thank you very much. And Jonas, if you would like to compliment, kindly, you're welcome.
Thank you very much, Caroline. No, at this stage, no. So happy to take any questions at the later stage if there are any.
Okay, thank you very much for that. I think that gave a really nice introduction then to the different types of processes or that you use to be able to support projects in Eastern African countries. I think there will be some questions actually coming from the participants, but before entering into that, I'd like to actually give the floor to Mr. Hitoshi Yoshizaka, who is the Deputy Director of Social Infrastructure Finance Department of the Japan Bank of International Cooperation. He has been working in private sector finance in Japan and in China, and the Japan Bank of International Cooperation has a growing portfolio in Africa, and a large component of that is also focusing on waste management as one of their fields of interest. So, Mr. Yoshizaka, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Now sharing my presentation.
Thank you.
It sounds good? Okay.
Yes, I can hear you and see your presentation, yes.
Thank you. Thank you for introducing, now starting my presentation. Japan Bank for International Cooperation is policy-based financial institution of Japan and conduct lending, investment, and granting while complementing the private sector financial institutions. Here is brief profile, and we have 4 missions as keyword: resources, the international competitiveness of Japanese industries, global environment, and international financing order. We have established a global investment enhancement facility in this July. This facility is intended to support Japanese companies in contribution toward preserving the global environment and enhancement of supply chain reliance. So there are 2 windows in this facility. Sustainability window is for projects or businesses which contribute toward preserving the global environment, including waste treatment. We have some financial instruments. I'd like to explain involvement of Japanese companies in each financial instruments. In the export loan, the Japanese company is exporter. So JBIC finances the importers of Japanese materials or equipment, or financial institutions which finances those importers. In the overseas investment loan, Japanese company is equity participator. So the loan are provided to Japanese investors, overseas Japanese affiliates, and so on. In Untitled Untitled loan are unconditional on procurement of equipment and materials from Japan. But capital from this loan is used to, for example, finance projects having positive effect on global environment preservation, or to achieve equilibrium in international balance of payment in finance to the countries. At TIGAT 8, JBIC established phase 3 to contribute to the social and environmental development in Africa. We has financed the equivalent of $4.4 billion between 2019 to 2021. Those of JB finances for Africa in the past 3 years. There are 3 project lines, and those are available now. So I'd like to introduce them in next slide. Export project line for African Export-Import Bank. JB co-financed with commercial bank to Afrexim Bank. Its amount was $300 million. Sub-borrower has needs to be financed substantially, and Afrexim Bank financed them if the condition would be met to this project line. This is a summary of eligibility. Sub-borrower is required to import Japanese items. This is eligible countries list. This is also project line and similar to previous one, but this is via Eastern and Southern African Trade and Development Bank. This is a project line to government of Benin and the green operation. This is untitled loan, so import of Japanese instruments or investment by Japanese company is not conditioned to finance. Let me give supplementary explanation about green operation. This is our menu to support a project which gives much positive impact on environmental protection. The sub-borrower get capital via government of so project of government of Benin. This is JB's track record of waste treatment project. I would like to introduce 2 examples. This is Compo gas waste treatment and power generation project. This project consists of treatment of food waste and power generating from biogas and selling compost from residues. The treatment capacity is 30,000 tons per year, and power output is 713 kilowatt. Next, this is water and waste to energy project. This is one of the world's largest and the world's first waste to energy project. Its treatment capacity is 1.9 million tons per year, and power output is 194 megawatt. The electricity generated to be provided to by municipality for 35 years. Thank you so much for this presentation.
And no, thank you very much for that. And I think that sort of gave a really nice overview of what types of projects you actually do finance and the impact that they have on the country level. So thank you very much for that, Mr. Yoshizaka. I hope that Mr. Philippe Montagne is connected.
Yes, I am here.
Excellent, excellent, Mr. Montani. So I'd like to introduce you before you, just a minute. And Mr. Philippe Montani is a project director of Europe, Middle and Africa region, who's from the Alliance to End Plastic Waste. In the recent years, the Alliance to End Plastic Waste and UN Habitat have deepened our collaboration and partnership, especially in applying the Wastewise Cities tool and action planning in specifically African countries. So today we'd like to hear a little bit more about the solid waste management projects in Africa, which you have been supported from the side of the Alliance to End Plastic Waste. So Mr. Montani, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Are you sharing the presentation I sent, or do I need to share it myself?
I think either now or Shiho will share.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, let me. Shiho, do you have the presentation?
I have only one slide to show.
I think I've seen it. Yes. Yes. Let me see. Apologies for this.
Okay. I think you can go to the next one. Voila. Okay, so hello everyone. So I will try to give you in a few minutes a hint of what the Alliance to End Plastic Waste is trying to achieve in Africa. So for your information, first of all, the Alliance has been created 3 years ago and has already launched over the world more than 50 projects trying to end plastic waste in our world. In Africa, we have been present from day one, launching first a project in Ghana with the Azaze Foundation, and this is what you can read on the lower left corner. So Azaze Foundation made a project called Closing the Loop, and basically it consists on creating and settling buyback centers in the city of Accra, supplied by the informal sector. And in parallel, we have built and continue to build recycling facilities to process the recyclables into flakes and pellets. This project ultimately will allow to divert from the environment 6,000 tons of plastic waste per year. This project will last 2 years. It started in 2021 and it will end up next year. Close to Ghana, we have a similar project that we are driving with Coliba Africa. This project is called Circular Abidjan. So as his name indicates, it is in Abidjan in Ivory Coast. Here we settled buyback centers in the cities of Abidjan, always and also supplied by the informal sector. And we are building now a state-of-the-art recycling plant to produce at the end clean recycled PET flakes. Ultimately, this project will be able to divert 15,000 tons of plastics every year. If we go to Eastern Africa, we do have a project in Nairobi, Kenya, with the company Taka Taka, where we, in fact, set up it's an interesting project on the Dandora dump site. I guess if you are living in Nairobi, you know very well what is Dandora dump site, very close to the city downtown. So here what we've done, we settled a buyback center and a manual sorting facility to extract the valuable plastics from this unmanaged landfill. And of course, then they go into the plant of Taka Taka, who is able to recycle the plastics into pellets to be sold afterward to the recycling market. If we go down, we have a project, also tiny project, but very charismatic one in Mozambique, under the umbrella of African Park. This project is called by Ziza Bazaruto. Actually, we have set up a team to collect the plastic waste in the wonderful Bazaruto Archipelago National Park, which is unfortunately polluted by the waste brought by the Indian Ocean. So the first step was to collect this waste, and now we are starting the second step is to recycle this plastic waste, mainly into construction equipment or construction material. Then I will finish this presentation by 4 projects which are simultaneously launched in South Africa under an umbrella of what we call a flagship project. So as you will understand, it's very diversified projects. The first one, called Closing the Gap with Reclaimers, is driven by Green Cape organization in the city of Johannesburg. We are here at the feasibility stage to understand and to collect the baseline data of Johannesburg and design an inclusive waste management system, meaning a system that will integrate ultimately the informal sector into the network of waste pickers of the municipality. The second part, of course, will be to implement this system. Linked to that project, we have started a project with ARO, which is the African Reclaimer Organizations, famous in South Africa. So we're linked to the city of Johannesburg. We will collect plastic waste in the rural area around and some urban area as well. And ARO will sort and sell the recyclables to the recycling industry afterwards. Here, the quantity of product that we shoot for, it's I would say a capped project in time. So on a 9-month basis, we will collect 1,000 tons of plastic waste. And of course, if we are successful, the goal is to trigger afterwards the phase 2 with ARO to go to a more ambitious volume and project. The third one is a massive one that we have started in the city of Durban, still in South Africa. It's called Inkwazi Izu. It's driven by South Africa Healthcare Foundation. It consists on cleaning up the dump sites, the rivers and the beaches, which are close to the informal settlement. And at the same time, we improve the infrastructure of 10 MRFs of the city, municipal recycling facility of the city, in order to, I would say, sort, bale, aggregate, massify the recyclables collected in the areas described before. Ultimately, we will collect 20,000 tons per year of plastics, and we will recycle probably 80% of it. The very last one, still in South Africa, now in the city of Cape Town, is linked to a company called CRDC, who found original formulation to replace partially the sand in the concrete formulations. So what we do, in fact, first we expand the bag that builds action in South Africa. And thanks to this action, we'll be able to set up a system to collect flexible packaging that will be part of what we call the Resin 8 facility. Resin 8 being this famous formulation based on difficult to recycle plastics and allowing to produce lighter concrete bricks, for instance. Ultimately, we will collect 700 tons on a period of 14 months. Voilà, so I just brushed very, very quickly what we are doing today in Africa. If you have to remember 4 things for the Alliance is we want impact. Impact meaning we want 1,000 tons of plastics diverted from the environment every year. We want impact now. We want circularity. And at the end, we want sustainability of our projects, meaning all our projects must have a viable business model. Voilà, in a few words, what we're doing here, and I'm pleased to answer questions, if any.
No, thank you very much for that. And I think it was actually very powerful to also see how with the projects that you've been doing, it's really sort of going from the sorting to the recycling to the, just like you're saying, you know, having an impact and supporting then the circularity and sustainability of the projects. Really appreciate that. Before we actually move into the Q&A, because I think there's a lot of questions that are being raised by the ACCP members, but I just wanted to ask each of the panelists, if you could just explain a little bit, what are your expectations to be an ACCP associate member? And maybe since we have you online, Mr. Montagne, would you like to start?
Well, I think it's easy. The Alliance to End Plastic Waste is keen to develop projects that make sense in Africa. Of course, we have our own criteria to select projects, but we need to get ideas, we need to get feedback, insights from the people living in Africa, I would say facing a pollution issue and coming to us and say, well, we do have a problem here, have a look on what we propose, and being, I think, connected like this to those who know and face problems, we think that we have a chance to bring solutions. Of course, we cannot answer to the, I would say, to the hundreds of not questions, but issues put on the table, on our table, but it inspires us to build projects that make sense, again, for the African people.
No, thank you very much for that, Philippe, because I think it's really, that's also actually the role of the ACCP platform, is really to have that exchange of knowledge and being able to then scale up some solutions. So I think it's a very good platform for you to actually engage with. Yeah.
If I can add something also, I see a question about informal sector. We are very, very keen to work with the informal sector. I think everybody knows that 80% of the plastic waste or the waste are collected in the world by the informal sector. We cannot ignore them. This is why you understood that we made a project specifically with them in South Africa, really to penetrate this world, to understand how they work, how they live. We will issue very soon a video where you will see we spend one full day and night with them, and our action, if I just speak about this in Johannesburg, is really to integrate these people in the society. We want to bring them back their dignity, and we want just them to exist. So we are absolutely engaged in this fight, I think, to be sure that we don't generate projects without them, because they are part of the solution, definitely for us.
Yeah, thanks a lot for answering that question, Philippe. And it's very nice to see how you're actually integrating then the waste pickers as a solution to actually being able to deal with these issues. And I was surprised when you mentioned that 80% of the waste is actually collected by the informal sector. So that's a substantial amount, actually.
It is a huge number.
It's a huge number. Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yes. So important partner to bring on board. Maybe with that, I'd move very quickly to Mr. Yoshizaka. If you could maybe also just highlight a little bit what your expectations are from the side of the Japan Bank of International Cooperation.
Sorry, please one more time.
Yes.
Repeat one again.
Apologies.
Sorry, could you tell me one more again?
Oh yes, yes, of course. No, maybe if you'd like to explain a little bit how the bank would be interested in actually becoming an associate member, and how,
okay.
yeah, what your interest is in
As
engaging
JBIC,
with the ACCP?
as of JBIC, we would like to contribute to African free and healthy environment. And for our side, it is important to catch needs in waste treatment sector in Africa. So I would like to make my knowledge, our knowledge or understanding more deeper regarding in this sector. See, that is the reason.
No, thank you for that, Mr. Yoshizaka. And so it's really about that sharing of knowledge and exchange and city-to-city learnings, I think. So maybe then I'll move quickly over to Caroline and Jonas. Would you like to also give us an insight into how the EIB Global Hub would be interested in actually engaging with the ACCP as an associate member, and what your expectations are?
Okay, thank you, Cecilia. I will just say a bit, but I think I'll leave the floor to Jonas to also say something. So I think our interest more, as other colleagues have mentioned, is knowledge sharing. We believe this is a platform where we can learn from other members, the activities they are doing, what we can do in what form, in what creative way to meet the objective of, reduction of waste, but also management of that waste, particularly plastic, but also solid waste in general, in the whole value chain, from collection to transfer to management, to circularity, really, to valorization of all this waste. Another expectation for us is we believe that this is a platform where we can get or develop bankable, impactful projects that then we can finance, because as I mentioned, the focus for EIB Global right now is development oriented. We want to bring impact. We want to make sure everybody their welfare is improved in terms of, in this case, waste management. And so this pipeline of projects will be important to us so that we are able to finance them. And of course, connections and partnerships, because again, for sustainability, we need to have partnerships like we are already having in financing this sector, but also in making sure that whatever is financed is sustainable, is maintained. Yeah, Jonas, if you have something to say.
Thank you very much, Caroline. I think you said most of the relevant things on networking, knowledge exchange, etc. To add is possibly the very valuable work that you and Habitat is doing yourself. I mean, you have your Waste-Wise Cities tool. You have other work, initiatives in many of the cities that are relevant to work with. So I think that's also one aspect that we would look forward to learn more about and benefit from. So that's all.
Okay, no, thanks a lot, Jonas and Caroline. And I think you actually touched upon not only sharing of knowledge, but also actually learning and being able to apply some of those tools and methodologies. So, Caroline, you actually also touched upon the issue of bankable projects. So, if you don't mind, I'd like to also ask you, so what are the important aspects that you see that is important for a project proposal to get funded through the EIB?
Jonas, would you like to take that?
Yeah, I can try to do that. I'm trying to turn on my camera. For some reason, it's not really reacting. So you will just need to listen to me. I think let's see, now I have to start my video. Let's see if it works. The word bankability is a bit debated also in an organization like EIB, but basically it means a project is bankable when a bank like EIB or any other bank, JBIC, is able and willing to finance a project. And we are then for projects looking at many different aspects. We are looking at the technical, we are looking at the technical feasibility, viability, we are looking at financial aspect, it should be financially sustainable. We are looking at the economic aspects, is it worth doing, is it having economic impact, in particular in cases where there is a need maybe to complement the loan that the EIB or another bank can give with a grant, then it really needs to be justified. Of course, we are looking at environmental aspect, we're looking at social aspects. In relation to solid waste management, a lot of social aspects, this formalizing the informal sector in relation to collection, very important. Upgrading disposal, often also have a relocation aspect, providing alternative livelihood to waste pickers living and working on the landfills. So many different aspects, also for EIB as a climate bank, not only an EU bank. We have a lot of focus on climate risks, vulnerability to ensure that changes in climate, either more dryness or more wetness, rain, precipitation, flood risks are fully considered. So all these aspects which we look at various stages of preparing a project or of assessing, doing the due diligence, need to in a way convince us so that we can convince the credit decision makers in the end. And it's kind of in a way considered together and need to be convincing all different parts in order to be what we can then conclude as bankable, which is the result of a credit committee saying yes and the bank being able and willing to provide a loan.
No, thanks a lot for that, Jonas. And I think you actually touched upon how important it is to take it from when you're assessing the project from an environmental, but also from a social and an economic perspective, but not only economic in viability, but also economic in economic empowerment of the communities that are being engaged in that. So thank you for that. I think we'll probably delve a little bit deeper into that. There may be some questions from some of the partners, but now I'd also like to ask the same question then to Mr. Yoshizaka from the Japan Bank of International Cooperation. So, what are the important aspects for your bank, specifically with regards to being able to finance possible projects going forward?
Okay.
Getting a project funded.
And what sharing of roles? It means what party can or what type of responsibility. For example, in the case of waste treatment, waste to energy project, to get stable energy to get stable revenue by energy generation from waste. Quality and quantity of waste is important. For a business entity, it might be difficult to control the quantity or quality of waste. In that case, it is important minimizing that risk by other parties. So that is me. What sharing role is important.
No, thank you very much, Mr. Yoshizaka. I think you actually touched upon, you brought in a whole new area, which is around revenue generation from waste and how important that is then for the financing of projects going forward. So maybe Mr. Montaigne, because you actually focus on a different sector with regards to waste management, solid waste management and project financing. So what are the important aspects that you look at when it comes to actually project proposals getting funded? Is Philip connected?
Maybe he might have left already.
Oh, he might have left already.
Yeah, he
Okay.
told us that he can stay here only 30 minutes
Okay.
due to the other commitments.
Okay. Well, that's a shame, because I think it would have been really nice to also understand a little bit more exactly
Maybe
how.
we can organize some more dedicated session online webinar, inviting associate members as well.
Yeah.
So maybe that's
Yeah.
maybe
I think there's actually.
Cecilia would, yeah.
I think then maybe we can actually move into the question and answer. And I think there's actually a lot of questions already in the chat. But maybe as a first step, I'd allow people who would be interested in actually asking a question directly, because we have maybe about 10 minutes for questions and answers to the panel.
We have 20 minutes.
Oh, 20 minutes. Okay.
We have
Okay, that's good.
We have 20 minutes, a little bit more than 20 minutes
Okay.
for this.
Okay, super. So we actually have time. So is there anybody who'd like to ask a question directly, or should we pop into the chat? I don't see any hands up actually to our panelists, but maybe I'm missing something. No? Because I think there's a lot of questions to the plastic waste. So to Philippe actually. And I think he answered actually some of those questions before he left. Do we have any?
In terms of the questions for Philippe, then maybe we can compile this and then ask Philippe later, and then
Yes.
we can consolidate all the answers from him and then share it on the website
Yes.
as well.
Could I possibly then complement a bit what Yoshi started mentioning? I think a very relevant aspect in relation to some of the work that Alliance to End Plastic Waste are doing, and that some of the projects that COPIP also is looking at, and that is the market aspects of projects, in particular the plastic recycling projects. I think that, like he indicated, plastic recycling is done in many countries in many ways on a small, often very rudimentary scale. It's small individuals, small organizations, maybe community-based, maybe small entrepreneurs, but often they are struggling to get sufficient amounts of sufficiently good quality plastic feedstock in order to scale it up to an extent that they really can have financial viability in their operations, but also to enable and allow them produce the kind of recycled output qualities that would be interesting for companies to buy and also to pay reasonable amounts for. So there is a bit of a chicken and egg issue that yet on both sides, the feedstock side and on the offtake side, there is a need. So I think projects like what the Alliance to End Plastic Waste are doing, what we are trying to do in the COPIP projects, to look for ways to support these often many individual players to maybe organize them in a better way, for example, in cooperatives, trying to work together, try to merge the volumes of plastic they can collect, support them with regard to the collection, rather than having to go to landfill and sort out the plastics. Focus really on the separate collection of plastic, trying to get clean, good qualities of plastic in the kind of volumes that together may allow them or someone else to invest in the kind of facilities with the kind of equipment that really reach economy of scale, where you can start to see financial viability and, like Philippe said, a bit more sustainable business models. That is one important aspect. And the other is to try to, for such context, larger cities, larger regions, focus on the collection on the feedstock side, enabling investors, entrepreneurs to do this scale up, this investment in larger, better facilities, maybe with material recovery facilities, like Philip said before, that can take waste, can clean it, can shred it, can bale it, or prepare it for sale to the recyclers. And then in that context also try to bring in the kind of companies that really have an interest in supporting such ventures. Many of the large brands we know in Africa, for example, the Cokes, the Nestle, the Danones, etc., they have very ambitious and well communicated targets for increasing the recycled contents in the bottles, in the packaging, etc. And in many cases, they are struggling to source such material that could go into the facilities on the continent. They need to ship it at high cost, high carbon footprint from other continents. So trying to get them in the picture, ensure that they understand that they have both a responsibility, which they often are aware of, and they have these ESG commitments, but also that they have a role to support such ventures by engaging, maybe often longer term offtake contracts, maybe even offer a willingness to pay a reasonable price, maybe a good price for this recycled plastics, if of the right quality. They need it, they have promised to include it in the products, but they need to support the sourcing of it by engaging with these companies, ideally in longer term offtake contracts. And then there could be really the kind of developments that take this small scale, inefficient, rudimentary kind of makeshift efforts to a scale and to an efficiency where impact can be seen. And I think in some countries in Africa, efforts are made. In Ghana, they have the National Plastic Action Plan, which is trying to promote this. I think in Nigeria, they are trying to set up a similar national plastic action plan. And I think the work that Alliance to End Plastic Waste, work that UN Habitat is doing and can continue to support, would contribute to, in some countries, demonstrate how this development actually can go from a bit of theory to practice and impact on the ground. And I think that is where really, I think the next 5 years would have an enormous opportunity, a window of opportunity, some challenges, but hopefully also a very different situation in 5-10 years. If all efforts from all different sides are trying to work together to address this and put in place a more sustainable and a more circular plastic value chain.
Yeah. No, thanks a lot for Jonas. I actually see Nagwa also commenting here that she says thanks a lot. And she was also adding how important it is to have that holistic approach, integrated holistic approach, to be able to develop those action plans and be able to implement those plans as well. And of course, with that comes then the need for possible financing to be able to do that. And I think that was actually one of the questions from a guest as well, is how to access this funding. And I think this was specifically targeting then the JBIC. But I saw that Now had her hand up, and I don't know, did you want to ask a question now? Yeah.
Yes, sorry, just I'm taking it over and then making it most of this floor where people are not really raising hands. So I was just wondering about this COPIP project. And then we have been really doing the Waste Cities tool applications in those target countries. And then, for example, we have been working together with Francois here for Bukavu City, where we found that the waste collection rate is 7%. And I was just wondering, like, if there's still like a space for submitting like a pre-feasibility study, like level of a proposal for the full feasibility study. Some of the countries under the ACCP members, I think that our survey so far found, for example, at the Democratic DRC really needs a lot of support for solid waste management, because we did the Waste-Wise Cities 2 survey in Goma and Bukavu. Both the waste collection rate is less than 10%. And then I think that Kinshasa is also kind of similar situation. And I'm just wondering if there's any space for submitting more proposals for this COPIP program. Sorry for this specific questions, but I think it would be also other countries as well that we are doing the this year. We're going to do the do-it-yourself Waste-Wise Cities 2 survey by the ACCP members in countries. We just launched the EOI. So we're just wondering about if there's any space for countries and cities to submit the proposal to the COPIP program. So thank you.
Thank you. Now, as Caroline indicated, that the program has been going on for quite a while, a bit slower than intended due to COVID. And at this stage, out of the goal to select 20 projects for the first kind of concept notes, the fishes, there have already been progress to the next stage. Out of the 20 projects for which fishes have been prepared, there have been already 10 projects selected for pre-feasibility studies, for which 4 already is ongoing and the other 6 will continue. And DRC and Kinshasa, for example, were in the discussion at some point, but it was not really the kind of progress made that in the kind of condensed time schedule that the COPIP team had convinced us that there would be likelihood that such a project would be able to progress. So it's not part of the 10 projects. And what I think could be relevant, and I think the COPIP team already have had a dialogue with you, is for these 10 countries and cities where pre-feasibility studies are ongoing or will soon start up, to ensure that any work that you have done with the Waste-Wise Cities tool or in other ways is fully considered in this pre-feasibility study. So I think that in Kenya, for Mombasa, for example, I know that they have considered the work that you have done and will continue to do so. And there may be a need for further interaction with you and your team. But I think that's where they are and where the opportunities lie at this moment.
Thank you for the clarification.
Yes, no, thank you, Jonas. And I think as well, could you, because you're also or Caroline was talking about that there are these additional hubs that are being set up in, like one for West Africa, Southern Africa. So you're from the East African hub, but would those hubs also have similar projects focusing on solid waste management?
Sure. The projects are across Africa, similar. The sectors which we finance are the same, because it's basically the same bank. So yes, whichever, if there are projects like this, sure, they are eligible for financing in whichever regional hub that will be created after the Nairobi one.
Thank you.
Yeah, and for the COPIP project, these 10 pre-feasibility studies, many of them are in Western Africa, and then the Abidjan regional hub would be the one that follows them closely.
Exactly. Okay. No, thank you very much. And I don't know if there are any, I can't see if there are any other hands up. I
Sorry,
think,
again, it's me.
It's now again, yes.
Sorry. Yeah, for the I'm just wondering, like, how the ACCP members can also contribute to the COPIP process. I think that the now 10 cities have been selected, I think, and how the ACCP, I don't know if these 10 cities are part of the ACCP, but if some of them are there, then what kind of collaboration or cooperation can be considered?
I think that if there would be possibility for you, and we now as ACCP members could get a list of the cities and of the contact person, that list would be very relevant for the COPIP team, and they could, in their discussions with promoters, ensure that the ACCP representatives are in the process, are aware, and could contribute to the work. I think that could be very relevant next steps in regard to that.
Great, thank you so much for the clarification.
Thank you. And I actually don't see any additional questions, so maybe we could actually have a little bit of a break. And
Maybe a longer break, a little bit of a longer break. It's been quite a long, an intensive 5 days.
yes.
So maybe we can have a 15 minutes of a break here,
Okay.
and then come back at the 40.
Yeah, that sounds.
Yeah, and then we can restart.
Yeah.
And then for the adoption of the ACCP outcome document.
Okay, thanks a lot now. So first of all, I'd just like to say thank you very much to our panelists. I think this has been a really good introduction to, you know, the support that you could actually provide to the ACCP membership, and really welcome to join the ACCP as an associate member. We're very happy to have you on board, and looking forward to having more of these kind of exchanges and ideas, and being able to take forward this important area of work around managing waste in African cities. So thank you, everybody, and we will reconvene again, as Now was saying, at in 2:40, I think we said. So we'll see you back in a bit. Thank you very much.